This is Game, Set, Match Kentucky, Episode 3, recorded September 3rd, 2018, entitled, I've Gotta Start Showing Up for Rehearsal. Hey everybody, it's time for Episode 3 of Game, Set, Match Kentucky, where we talk about all things related to the Central Kentucky Tennis Series and maybe a whole lot more that you never asked for. This is September 3rd, 2018. I'm Chris Godby. I'm the chairman and one of the founders of the CKTS, where the lines are good, sandbagging is for golf. I'm back at the CKTS headquarters in Russell Springs, Kentucky, and with me again today, all the way from the city of Bowling Green, Kentucky, one of our longtime tournament directors, Mr. Chad Young, welcome.
Yeah, we had so much to talk about in the last one. We didn't get to it all, so I appreciate the invitation to come back.
It feels like it was a month ago since we did that previous episode, and it's only been a week and a half. We tried to get together and do this last week, and it just didn't seem to work out for either one of us. Busy week leading into the Labor Day holiday weekend. How has your Labor Day holiday weekend been?
It's been pretty good. It's a little hot, but it's been pretty relaxing. And, you know, I just started doing high school football, so it's nice to have a day off.
Now, you're broadcasting games for your radio station?
That's right. We cover one of the 4 Warren County schools each week. So I guess last week was week 3. So, the beginning of high school football season's pretty hectic time. So it was nice to have a day off.
So you're rotating around to different teams in the area?
Yeah, we've got 4 Warren County schools, and so we do a game of the week. Sometimes that involves both or 2 of the schools, but like last week we did Franklin and South Warren, and then next week we do Warren East and Edmonson County. So we do it on the radio, and then we also this year started doing video on Facebook Live as well.
Well, I feel bad for you that you have to memorize, to some extent, multiple rosters this way.
Yeah, I mean, for the last, about 10 years, we've done Greenwood football, and it is a lot easier to only have to kind of get acclimated with one school. Right. Now I'm pretty much having to do 2 schools each week, although, we did South Warren. We had them 2 weeks in a row, and then we had Warren East 2 weeks ago, so it's not as bad. But, yeah, having to learn 2 teams sometimes can be a challenge.
I have the pleasure for working for 2 football teams as a stadium announcer. I've never been on the radio, but as a stadium announcer, I'm the announcer for the Russell County High School Lakers football games, where I've been a teacher for 20-something years now. And I also I'm the stadium announcer for Lindsey Wilson College since the inception of their football team back in 2010. And people ask me, do you ever accidentally say the wrong team name, especially if you have a Russell County game on Friday night and a Lindsey Wilson game the next afternoon? It happened once. Lindsey Wilson recovered a fumble once, and I said fumble recovery for the Lakers, and just one-time thing. But anyway, good luck. Good luck this season.
Yeah, I did Western football games as PA announcer for about 12 years, and so I would do a high school game on Friday night and then do a Western game a lot of times on Saturday too. So,
were you a football player growing up?
I grew up in Indiana, and with Indiana, tennis is a fall sport, not a spring sport. And so,
the way it should be here, in my opinion.
Absolutely the way it should be here. But tennis also wasn't available until you got to high school. So I played football through middle school, and in the 8th grade, we were doing a tackling drill, and I cracked my sternum. I was just walking off the field after practice, and I told a teammate, I'm like, man, it kind of hurts when I breathe. And he said, yeah, you should probably get that checked out. So I cracked my sternum, and that pretty much ended my season. And I was a much better tennis player than I ever was a football player. So that was pretty much the end of my football career.
But if you're like me, you love football and you're a big football fan. I didn't play organized football after Pee Wee, and played a little bit of flag football. Wasn't very good at it, but I just love it. And but people didn't tune in here to hear us talk about football today, even though we could probably go on and on about football. But what we will do today on this episode of Game Set Match Kentucky is check out the latest tournament results from the Glasgow Open, which was last weekend. And hot off the press are the latest CKTS point standings. As of this recording, they're not even published on the website yet because I just got them. We'll look at a few events coming up in tennis around the area. We'll start by thanking the sponsors for this week's episode. LakeNet Media Web Hosting is providing the hosting for Game Set Match Kentucky. If you or your business are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to info@GameSetMatchKentucky, and we'll try to discuss that and set something up. Today, we're going to talk about some perhaps controversial topics. One in particular, maybe two, depending on how much time we have.
Yeah, last week we ran out of time.
We ran out of time. So from time to time, our tournament directors, very hardworking people, you're one of them, twice a year. From time to time, we run into complaints. We run into complaints over scheduling. I understand that it's frustrating when players maybe play an early match and then it's several hours later before they play again. I understand myself that there's frustration involved when when there's downtime like that, and you're frustrated because it's hard to wait, it's hard to watch. Maybe you have places that you would like to be. Chad, what's been your experience with complaints about scheduling?
Well, complaints are part of running tennis tournaments. Anytime you are dealing with upwards of 200 people, and everyone has different schedules and so on and so forth, you're inevitably not going to make everyone happy if everybody's not on the same page in terms of what the expectations are. I'll tell you, I said in our last podcast that every tournament director does things a little bit differently. I will say that every tournament director, though, wants things to move smoothly, and tournament directors never want the tournament to last longer than it has to, because it's a long day on Saturday. It's a longer day on Saturday. It's still a pretty long day on Sunday. So, I understand when I get complaints. I try to look and it's always better to complain beforehand, because a lot of times I can go in and other tournament directors can go in and see if things have changed that can allow a match to be done sooner. What I think people don't understand about scheduling, if you do it the new school way and you let the computer do it, and then it's kind of computer assisted. The computer at the begin on Thursday when we do the draws, the computer considers that everyone entered in a draw. So that could be 16 singles entries or 32 doubles participants at most. It assumes that every one of those people could be playing in the final and the semifinal on Sunday.
Right.
And so it's very difficult, and the computer schedules accordingly. And then, by late Saturday afternoon, a lot of times half of those people have been eliminated, and some of those conflicts, especially when people play in multiple divisions, are no longer there. And so a tournament director can change it. And if people have complaints, I try to listen to them, explain what we can do, and try to make it as convenient for everyone as possible. But you always have to keep in mind that there's probably going to be a time or two that either we make a mistake or it's just someone might have to be unhappy. but the if you look at the CKTS entry form, it tells you should be and this isn't just a CKTS thing. This is every tournament you play. You should be expecting to play at any point in time, all day on Saturday or Sunday, because sometimes rain comes into play. Sometimes there are other schedule avoidances, and 5 o'clock in the evening might be the earliest time that you might be able to play a final.
You brought up something I was thinking the exact same thing, and I'm reading right now from every tournament page on the CKTS website. There's some instructions and disclaimers right before you hit the entry form at the bottom of a particular page, and here's the direct quote. It says, "Players must plan to be able to participate at any time all day beginning at 8 a.m. local time on Saturdays and Sundays. If you have a scheduling concern," it says, "you must inform the entry contact person before the deadline, and special arrangements should be rare and are never guaranteed." We're going to talk about that and challenge the call, so I don't want to get into that part of it right now. But, going into that with that in mind, and understanding, too, that this is partly done by a computer, an automated scheduling system that, like you said, assumes everyone is going to keep winning, and it tries to plan it out accordingly to fit everything in without a conflict. Then factor in also that there is a human being who can make adjustments to that based on their own personal prediction of how it might go. But if you're scheduling a tournament with, and I think Trina had over 100 people, Trina Rickard had over 100 people at the Glasgow Open, and I would consider that one of our smaller sets of numbers this summer. We've had, how many players have you had typically this last two tournaments?
I think
like 150.
We have 150 for the one in June, and because of some weather and other things, I think we were down closer to 120 for the second one.
Okay, but still,
I know both tournaments sometimes could be over 200.
Yeah, let's just say it's 100 people and 23 divisions if they all make. Most players playing 2 events, getting all that in 2 days on a set number of courts.
It's kind of remarkable.
I would like for parents and players to understand how difficult it can be just to make that happen. And the computer program is mostly helpful, and sometimes it can just really whack the schedule too. But the tournament director has so much more going on.
I think people, scheduling is really the last thing that most of us do when we do our draws. I mean, there's the entry of the people, and then there's putting the draw together, and then you have to determine how many rounds you're going to play on Saturday, how many and what sites you're going to play at, and how many rounds you're going to play on Sunday, and what sites you're going to play at. And then after you get all that done, then you get into scheduling. And at least how I do it is I'll let the computer schedule, and then I'll go back and look and see if I can see some things that need to be adjusted. And that's where it's really challenging when you have 23 divisions and you have people playing multiple events, and you have people, who a lot of times go very far in multiple events because they're probably one of the best players in that division or that level. And a lot of times people have played my tournaments, Sundays are not scheduled because the computer just can't do it. And so sometimes I might put a generic time in there knowing that there's a conflict, because a lot of times that conflict will resolve itself on Saturday. But scheduling is the hardest part of running a tournament.
Definitely. And you made a good point in that, it is often the player that's winning in singles is also winning in doubles, or vice versa. And, you enter 2 events, which is our maximum. You enter 2 events, and, you're going to plan to be playing a lot as long as you keep winning. And, it's a good thing, but it's going to tie up your weekend.
I don't ever root for players. but I do root for situations. And there are some times when I'll have a match
Oh yeah,
going on Saturday night or Sunday morning, and I'm like, boy, if that person wins, that'll make things a lot
that
easier
yeah,
for me.
yeah. That's understandable. So it's a few points here, and it sounds like I, or maybe Chad and I, are on the defensive. I don't mean to come across that way, but I'm definitely trying to defend the tournament directors here in this series. They're working hard to put on these events, and they have a lot more on their mind than just the times. There's court conditions and weather and people showing up when they're supposed to be there and trying to track down people that are late, or people are calling in wanting directions to the other site that they're playing. There's just a whole lot going on, and people walking up and asking questions, which is fine. But it's a hectic weekend, and it's unfortunate that sometimes the schedule just doesn't light up and work just right for everybody. But, if you love tennis, stick with it and make the best of it. Uh, Thank the tournament director for what they're doing, because, pardon my French, but if you piss these people off, they're going to end up quitting, doing this, you know.
Yeah, and I would say, it does sound like we're being defensive, and maybe we are, but I would say that all tournament directors will do their best to make accommodations for you, but you can't get that courtesy if you just bring it up after the fact. If you bring up an issue, say if you're looking at Sunday schedule and I have this problem or I have this problem, and you give a tournament director some time to maybe fix something that you think is wrong, they'll try. And a lot of times they'll be able to do it. And it might involve contacting your opponents and seeing um, if they can adjust their schedule and so on and so forth. But if you wait till after the tournament's over, you can't. The tournament director can't help you at all.
Exactly. And we'll talk a little bit about special arrangements in Challenge the Call coming up in a few minutes. But let's take a quick look at our, just a really fast look at our U.S. Open 2018 predictions. How are yours holding up? Because I've got one that's holding up, and I've got one that fell flat from the get-go.
Well, I feel pretty good about Nadal. I think you stole Djokovic, so I settled with the defending champion, and I've been pretty pleased with what I've been able to watch of Nadal so far. But I don't. Did we both pick Halep?
Yes, the number one overall seed, correct? And she
Yeah.
loses in the opening round in straight sets.
And she's the first one, I think, in the Open era. First time the number one seed has lost on the women's side in the first round. So yeah, that one fell flat for sure.
And I don't know why we didn't just pick Serena,
I
because
know.
she's going to win it all anyway. I
I
mean,
don't know. I don't think so. I don't get that feeling. I what's been amazing to me is that the Wimbledon draw really opened up for Serena to the point that she really didn't have to play anybody really good until the final. And the U.S. Open's kind of been the same thing, with Halep's loss, it's opened up the draw, and I mean Serena certainly is capable, but I don't know. I'm going to take the field if I get to repick my winner. I don't think Serena's going to win.
well, let's look at a tournament that is a little bit smaller than the U.S. Open and wasn't televised. It's the Glasgow Open, which was held last weekend. It's the sixth of 8 tournaments on the CKTS Tour this summer. And Chad and I will now go through the results. Chad, if you want to start with boys 12 singles.
All right. Actually, I was ready for boys 15, but I'll go back up to boys 12. Looks like Mason Baldwin was the winner over Ben Harrison 6-0 and 6-0.
In boys 15 and under singles, Jason Toll wins the championship in split sets. And looking through the draw, he won in split sets in the quarterfinals. He won in split sets in the semifinals. He won in split sets also in the finals. I bet he slept well on Sunday night. He defeated Owen Hunley 6-1, 4-6, and in the super tiebreaker, he won 10-6. Congratulations, Jason Toll.
Yeah, he certainly earned it. And the boys' 18 singles, Ethan Whalen had a little bit easier time. He won in the finals over Braden Bybee 6-0 and 6-0.
Jumping over to girls 12 and under singles, it was straight to a final. It was Ainsley Stowball defeating Arden Deathridge 6-2, 6-2.
In girls 15 singles, it was Jai Garris defeating Sarah Newton 6-1 and 7-5.
And Jai Garris loaded up and also won the girls 18 and under singles with a split set defeat over Connor Gallagher 6-3, 1-6, and 10-5 in the super tiebreaker.
We jump into men's B singles, which has been at times one of our bigger draws. This tournament, there were only 5 entries, but Silas Newton defeated Jeffrey Litton 6-1 and 6-2.
Okay, and so in men's C singles, we had an ultra rare. Of course, first of all, a round robin is kind of rare, which we do if we have 3 entrants in an event. But we had a 3-way tie in the round robin, meaning each of the 3 players won one of their 2 matches. Okay, so the way we resolve that is we base the winner of that division on the percentage of games that they won. Okay, so it took me a few minutes with my legal pad and calculator and slide rule and computer and all this to figure this up. But we have Richard Jackson winning men's C singles at the Glasgow Open by winning almost 64% of his games, followed by Ronak Chaudhary, who won 47% of his games, and Charles Roberts winning 41% of his games. So congratulations to Richard Jackson from Tompkinsville for winning men's C singles.
Yeah, he beat Ronak 6-2, 6-3, and so I figured that was how it was going to go. Because when you look at those 3 matches, you had one that's a little bit more straightforward. You had a 7-5, 6-3, and then you had a third set tiebreaker. So I knew probably who had that easiest win in that round robin was probably going to be the winner of that division.
Well, one of the things that helped Richard, too, is in his match against Charles Roberts, he actually lost that match, but the first set he won it 6-0. So that's helping his percentage while winning that first set 6-love. So that puts him over the top. All right.
In men's open singles, Jackson Grover defeated Wade Stone 6-4, 6-7, and then 11-9 in a tiebreaker. So that was a tight win, and I think those guys might have played doubles together from time to time too.
In men's 40 singles, W.D. McCubbin wins. It appears that there is a default in the final. I don't have the story on that, but he wins with a withdrawal or a walkover over Dwayne Coulter.
In women's B singles, we had a round robin, and Emily Wilson was the winner. She defeated Shelley Fenton 6-2, 6-1, and she defeated Amber Wolf 6-1 and 6-1.
If you'll notice in boys 18 doubles, we had a very large draw, which is great, and it comes down to a withdrawal victory at the end, Deathridge and Hunt over Doty and Jones for the championship.
In girls 18 doubles, we had 4 teams, and it was Bailey Richardson and Haley Woosley defeating Sarah Jiranek and Mallory Vowles in the final 7-5 and 7-6.
In men's B doubles, it was Charles Lynn and Michael Lindsay over Wesley Fisher and Silas Newton 6-4, 4-6, 10-7 in the super tiebreaker.
In men's C doubles, we had the father-son team of Charles and James Roberts defeating Tim Deathridge and Joseph Faust 6-0 and 6-2 in what was the only match in that division, which was the championship.
In men's open doubles, it was Justin Martin and Javier Raya winning 6-3, 6-3 over Shabazz Munawar and Tony Paquin.
In men's 40 doubles, if you're a part of the Big Blue Nation like Chris is, you're familiar with this name, Kyle Macy, former UK player, teamed with Tom Pennington, who it says here he's from Duncan, South Carolina, but he's very much from Bowling Green. They defeated Larry Milby and Tim Perkins 6-2 and 6-1.
Women's B doubles is next, and the team of Kathy Donnelly and Jennifer Tyler defeated Chatty Lee and Marvetta Overstreet 6-1, 6-love.
In women's open doubles, we just had a final, and it was Cheryl Hensel and Trina Rickard defeating Jamie Roberts and Emily Wilson 6-4 and 6-4. And I wanted to point out, sometimes you'll have players that list their what town they're from. That is based on their USTA membership, and sometimes
it may not be current, right?
Well, sometimes people who have moved or they'll be playing in a league somewhere else. And so Jamie is from Bowling Green as well, and apparently her mother signed her up for USTA at some point in time, and so it still lists her as from New Albany, Indiana.
In mixed B doubles, it was Aaron Ritchie and Jamie Roberts winning 7-5, 6-love over Cheryl Hensel and Jason Rickard.
And in mixed open doubles, we just had a final, and it was Lacey Lee and Justin Martin defeating Susan Hadleys and Stephen Humphreys 7-5 and 6-3.
That's two big wins for Justin Martin in doubles last weekend at the Glasgow Open, and he is, by the way, the director of our next tournament, the Ballman Tennis Classic in Columbia, and so it'll be interesting to see if he tries to run that tournament and play and to defend some titles there. In mixed 18 and under doubles, the team of Connor Gallagher and Ethan Whalen win 6-3, 7-5 over Calden Doty and Sarah Juranic. And that's it for a look at the Glasgow Open 2018 results. We can jump now to the current point standings.
And men's open singles, thanks to his win in the Glasgow Open, Jackson Grover now leads with 8.5 points.
Hang on, I opened the wrong document. Why didn't I have this ready?
Okay. I did.
I got to start showing up for rehearsal. In men's B singles, the leader continues to be June Tomioka with 16 points.
In men's C singles, Charles Roberts still in front with 14.5 points.
Yeah, and you'll see in those standings, in that round-robin situation, whether there was a three-way tie or not, the winner of the round-robin will get 4 points. The runner-up will get 3 points, just like they would in a straight-up draw. And then the third place in the round-robin will get 2. Okay, so we are now on men's 40 singles, and W.D. McCubbin still out in front with 15 points.
In boys 18 singles, Ethan Whalen has a sizable lead with 16 points.
In boys 15 and under singles, Owen Hunley has taken the lead with 11 points.
In boys 12 singles, we have a tie. Gary Zhang and Mason Baldwin are tied with 11 points.
In men's open doubles, Dwayne Coulter has half a point lead over Tucker Bradley.
In men's B doubles, we have a three-way tie. Larry Kohler, Craig Overstreet, and Mike Lindsay, with his win in Glasgow, is now at 9 points.
In men's C doubles, the father-son team from Columbia, Charles Roberts and James Roberts, sitting comfortably at the top with 18 points apiece. The next in line have 7 and 6 points. Chad, I'm going to go ahead and call it for the season for the Roberts family. And because they're going to play in their hometown tournament in Columbia next weekend, and they're really going to bring it. So,
in men's 40 doubles, Tim Perkins now leads with 11 points, and there's a three-way tie, 1 point behind him at 10 points.
In boys 18 and under doubles, there's a tie at the top between Calden Doty and Camden Jones with 9.5 points.
And I believe they're partners, aren't they?
Partners. Yeah, they appear to have, they've gotten the same result in each of the 4 events they've played, correct.
Women's open singles, Emily Novak still leads with 7 points.
In women's B singles, Amber Wolf is leading with 9 total points.
In girls 18 singles, Connor Gallagher leads with 14 points.
In girls 15 and under singles, Sarah Newton is standing at the top by 1 point over Jai Garas with 13 points.
And in girls 12 singles, Ainsley Stowball leads with 15 points.
Women's open doubles, the team of Cheryl Hensel and Trina Rickard still stand at the top with 15 total points.
You might be able to call that one. They're 2 tournaments left and an 8-point lead. That's pretty comfortable.
I'm going to go ahead and call it for Hensel and Rickard.
In a draw that doesn't usually result in that many entries. In women's B doubles, Amber Wolf has a half-point lead over Chatty Lee and Marvetta Overstreet, who are partners. So that one will be very interesting with 2 tournaments left.
Yeah, 2 tournaments to go. Yeah, it's still could be anybody's result there. Actually, if one of those ladies wants to win outright, they're going to have to split up the partnership and pick another partner.
That's right.
All right. Girls 18 and under doubles. Looks like we have another set of partners at the top. Bailey Richardson and Haley Woosley have 10 points apiece.
In mixed open doubles, Susan Hadley leads for the female competitors with 10 points. Actually, we have a tie.
She's tied, yeah.
She's tied with Lacey Lee. Steve Humphreys is tied for the men with 10 points as well with Justin Martin.
And that tied up as of the Glasgow Open, and Martin and Lee winning that mixed doubles event. Okay. Mixed B doubles, we have a father-daughter team at the top with 16 points each. It's Lex and Hallie Lindsay, and looking at the numbers, I think we can go ahead and call it for them for the year.
And in mixed 18 doubles, Keegan Christensen leads for the males with 12 points, and Connor Gallagher leads for the females with 11 points, and she is tied. Ethan Whalen, her doubles partner, is 1 point back of Keegan Christensen on the boys' side.
And that's a look at our current point standings all the way through the Glasgow Open 2018 with 2 tournaments left to go. And I want to give a shout-out to John Miller, the gentleman that tabulates our points after each tournament and gets them to us in a relatively timely manner and works hard on putting those together. It's a difficult task. It's a tedious task, and we really appreciate his help with that. Let's go next to what's coming up with the CKTS and in other area tennis action. The Bachman Tennis Classic at Columbia, formerly known as the Columbia Open, which went away for a couple of years. The new tennis coach at Lindsey Wilson College, our friend Justin Martin, is bringing it back, and he's calling it the Bachman Tennis Classic, named after Henry Bachman, who's a very well known in tennis circles for many decades, not just around Kentucky, but nationally. I hope Henry makes an appearance there this weekend. I haven't seen him in a while. I played doubles against him once in a friendly doubles match, and I'm telling you, the man can bring it. But this tournament is next weekend, September 8th and 9th. By the time you hear this podcast, it's possible that you've missed the September 4th entry deadline, but hopefully we have a very good turnout at a nice facility in the nice little town of Columbia. Looking forward to that next weekend. Then beyond that, 2 weeks later, we have the Lake Cumberland Open, our final tournament of the season, September 22 and 23. The deadline for that is Tuesday, September 18th at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. This is one of the 3 tournaments this season that are in the Eastern Time Zone. The other 5 are in the Central Time Zone. And for more information about what the Lake Cumberland Tennis Association does, please visit lctennis.com. They're in the midst of a fall tennis league right now, and they've always got something going on. So check out their website and their Facebook page for upcoming events. Our friends over at the Mountain Tennis Circuit are having a tournament in early October 6th and 7th. It's the Whitley County Open, and for more information on how to register to play that tournament, visit mtctennis.org. If you have an event that you want us to name on the podcast, please send it to info@gamesetmatchky.com. Let's move on to Challenge the Call. Chad, we touched on this earlier, but if I have other plans for the weekend, can I get some special arrangements?
Well, the answer is maybe, and I'll go back to my previous statement about tournament directors trying to work with you as much as possible. It might be possible. I'll say this: not all avoidance requests are created equal. If you have a serious, let me backtrack. Tournament directors will try to work with you because they want you to play in their tournament.
Right.
So they're going to make every effort to accommodate your needs. But there's a big difference between not being able to play in the afternoon on Sunday and I can't play between 12 and 3 o'clock on Saturday. And a lot of it has to do, from my perspective, with what kind of draw you're playing in. If you are in a draw that generally has a lot of entries, and those for the most part are junior singles events. So your boys 15 and 18 singles, your girls 15 and 18 singles. A lot of time our men's open singles or our men's B singles. If you're in those divisions, it becomes more difficult to accommodate avoidance requests. Basically, if you're in a division that has more than 8 entries, then you're going to play 2 rounds on Saturday and 2 rounds on Sunday. If you're in a division that has more than 4, between 4 and 8, then you're going to play either 1 match on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, or 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. So if you're in a division that is smaller, that might be a round robin, or might only play 2 matches, then a tournament director can probably work around most requests. But if you're in a division that is going to play 2 matches on Saturday and 2 matches on Sunday, and you say, I can't play Sunday afternoon after 12 o'clock, or I can't play at all Saturday afternoon, that becomes really, really difficult.
And I've already seen, something come up for Columbia next weekend. One of the entries, the tournament director sees all the entries, but I have access to them also. And I just noticed someone adding a note in their entry that they need to finish by, it was a certain time early afternoon on Saturday, and they're playing doubles. Mm-hmm. And doubles is, not by rule it's late afternoon, but by tradition it's late afternoon. In most tournaments, not all. That's going to be a little tricky to get them finished by early afternoon. It's not impossible, but, it's, as you said, Chad, directors will try to work with you because ultimately they want you to play.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't say is if you play in multiple events, you make it even harder to accommodate those requests. Because then if you're playing multiple events, and you're in one of those divisions that's going to play 2 matches on Saturday, that's 4 matches to play on Saturday. And with all the matches that have to be played, I mean, in some cases we're playing, 60, 70 matches at one site. It's incredibly difficult to work around that schedule and get everybody else's matches in. I would say, though, that I am able to accommodate about 90% of the requests that I get. But it's not always possible. And going back to what you read from the website earlier, avoidance requests should be rare, but they're not. I mean, I get a lot, and I think people maybe not realize, again, when we go back to trying to explain how scheduling goes, how difficult some of those requests really can make a tournament director's job.
Most people are really nice about it, and if you can't work it out for them, they understand. There have been situations where someone needs to be finished by, say, 5 o'clock on Saturday because they have to attend something, they have to be somewhere. And let's say there's a rain delay and it keeps pushing everything back, and there's no way that match can be played in time to get them where they need. In a situation like that, the player usually just gracefully withdraws and says, I'm just going to have to go and, skip it. And
yeah, I mean, if someone had a conflict with something on a weekend, I would say the first thing you could do would be to only play one event, and then communicate with the tournament director, because unfortunately, as we see every stop on the tour, Chris, is we have people withdraw, and there is nothing worse than a Saturday morning or a late Friday night withdrawal. Saturday morning is much worse than Friday night. If you think you have a conflict, tell the tournament director that, and pull out as soon as you know. When you see that draw or you see that schedule, if it's not going to work out, pull out. Because, I mean, I absolutely hate it when people don't show up on Saturday mornings and somebody has driven an hour, 2 hours sometimes, or even they've just gotten up at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Got up earlier than they wanted to. Yeah,
come play an 8 o'clock match, and somebody emails me Saturday morning and says, I'm going to have to withdraw.
Yeah.
There should be some courtesy involved.
Right. Now, this legitimately happened to me once. I woke up sick on the morning of a tournament that I was when I was still playing. I woke up sick one morning, and I was just like, there's no way I can go. And I had to call the director and cancel it then. But I know that does happen. It is rare. But if there's any way you know you're not coming, let the tournament director know as absolutely soon as you can. Well, if you want to challenge the call, follow us on Twitter and send us a message on Twitter at GameSetMatchKY, or on Facebook at GameSetMatchKY, or search for Game Set Match Kentucky, the podcast. We can also take emails at challenge@GameSetMatchKY.com. And wow, Chad, we've been on for quite a while here. I'm going to have to do some editing to package this down into a reasonable amount of time. But that is going to serve out another edition of Game Set Match Kentucky. Definitely appreciate those of you who are listening and subscribing. Please do subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Podcast, and we have just submitted to Spotify Podcast, and we should be on there soon if that's your avenue for listening to podcasts. Please send us a review on iTunes or give us a rating. And for all of our episodes and show notes and everything else, please visit GameSetMatchKY.com or GameSetMatchKentucky.com. If you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, we'd love to discuss that. Send a message to info@GameSetMatchKY.com. And I believe here it comes again. There's that familiar noise. Hawkeye says we are out. So until next time, I'm Chris Godby with Chad Young, and this has been Game Set Match Kentucky. Ooh, man.
I know.
That was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be short, and now it ended up being really long. So
you can't get me talking and stop me.
Well, thanks for being here on your day off and essentially doing radio
on my day off.
Your day off, yeah. So
I appreciate
anyway,
it.
I got to take.
I hope I did a good job of explaining the avoidance thing. Okay,
I could sense your blood pressure rising during all that.